one more thing we have to do besides downloading Windows, and that is to peel this off. Aww. Hey everyone, Digital David here. Today on this episode of Newegg Now, I'm going to be showcasing and benchmarking my new PC build. Shout out to Newegg for sponsoring today's video, but any part you see in this video was purchased by myself, and any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. If you're interested in anything that you see here, the links to the parts and the build will be in the video description below. Please go ahead and check it out there. Well, here it is, guys. We got it to post on the first time, and everything looks great. Now let's go ahead, let's dive into more detail and learn more about the parts and components in this build. So here's a rundown of all the parts for our budget build. I'm calling this the Oreo build. Without a GPU, the price should be around $750 or less, give or take, depending on if you make any upgrades, add more RAM, larger capacity hard drive, that sort of thing. Obviously, the build, this specific one with our RTX 3060, came in right at a little bit under $1,300. So all in, it's about a $1,300 build, give or take, for whatever GPU you end up using. But first up, our OS, Windows 10. Next, we got the Samsung 970 EVO Plus, followed by the Corsair CV series. This is a 550 watt non-modular power supply. Then you can see our NZXT case right here. There's 3 different color options available: white and black, black and black, and black and red. Here's our RTX 3060 from the Asus TUF gaming lineup. Corsair Vengeance LPX, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. You can see our speed right there. Check that out. Again, we can swap in extra sticks if we wanted to upgrade this to 32 gigs and beyond. Then you can see our motherboard, the MSI Pro B550. And then last but not least, our Ryzen 5 5600X that does come with a cooler and heatsink, so that is what we used in this build. So here's a look at all the parts and components in the build as it's assembled. We got our RTX 3060, our AMD 5600X with our stock included cooler and heatsink right here. You can see the 2 internal fans of our NZXT case, our MSI motherboard, our Corsair RAM, 16 gigs, 2 8 gig sticks. We still have 2 more slots. We could expand this further. And then you can see we have our cables right here that are plugged in, connected, all set and ready to go for our Corsair non-modular 550 watt power supply. Really nice, clean, simple build. I like how the case looks. It's definitely got the Oreo theme. Very happy with that. Now let's go ahead, let's look at it from the back side. Here's the back side of our build. Check it out. You can see the back of our motherboard. We have spots for additional 2.5-inch drives. We also have our 3.5-inch drive bays as well. I'm using that right now to store our extra cables from our Corsair CV550. You can see those cables running all throughout our case on the back right here. Really nice channels and grooves for proper cable management. Really nice how that's built into our NZXT case. Obviously, we could really tidy this up with more zip ties and give it an even cleaner cable management. But this is good enough to get the back panel back on, and I'm happy with it because I can easily reference everything I need if I ever have to make any repairs or swap out components. I can do that very easily thanks to the nice design of this case and having plenty of room for all of our cables and components. First up, we're looking at CPU-Z, so check it out here. Feel free to pause your screen as I browse the different tabs if there's anything you want to look at in more detail. But you can see we got the Ryzen 5 5600X. Here's our motherboard settings. Then you can see our memory, SPD, graphics. Again, we have our RTX 3060. Here's our bench results. So you can see that for the single thread and multi-thread scores. And then we have the about section of the app. Now let's go on and let's look at our SSD benchmarks. So you can see our real world benchmarking results right here from 2 different programs to get you guys a rough range of what you can expect with this drive versus what's advertised versus what you'll actually see in day-to-day use. So first up, we have Crystal Diskmark showing us a read score of 3476 megabytes per second and a write score of 2383 megabytes per second. AS SSD is showing us a read score of 3052 megabytes per second and a write score of 2263. Samsung will advertise this drive having read speeds up to 3500 megabytes per second, so we got really close to that number with Crystal Diskmark, but they advertise write speeds up to 3300 megabytes per second, and you can see clearly we fell short of that mark. Now you can see our Geekbench 5 results. So we got a single core score of 1653 and a multi-core score of 8133. Let's browse a little bit further down. You can see our system info again. We have our memory info. And now we have a breakdown of that single core performance. So let's go ahead. Let's just slowly browse that. You can see everything right here for the single core score and the different results, and compare it to your machine if you desire. Next, we have our multi-core score breakdown. Again, 8133 for the score. You can see the nice breakdown right there. A lot of tests run with Geekbench. And there's the rest of our multi-core score using Geekbench 5 for our benchmark. Now you can see our Cinebench R23 scores right here. First up, we have a multi-core score of 1045.7 and a single core score of 1508. Here's our build specs again. Here's the multi-core score breakdown. We're number 4 on this list of comparison devices. Pretty wide variety and range, though, if you see some of the core counts, threads, makes, and model. Definitely a price discrepancy in these tests. But you can see how it stacks up for some of those options. Now let's look at the same results for our single core. There we go. We're number 2 right here. You can see how it stacks up. Really cool that we have that comparison right here at our fingertips to see 12 different devices and how it compares. Now we're taking a look at the MSI Center. I downloaded this for our motherboard so we could get access to the hardware monitoring, but you can see there's other installable items depending on your usage scenarios. Mystic Light, if you want to control lighting effects on your MSI RGB devices, you can download that right here from the MSI Center. But in our case, let's look at the hardware monitor right here. We can see our CPU usage, CPU frequency, and we have our core temp and socket temp right here. Under a full load, like when I was benchmarking, I was looking at this, monitoring it periodically. Didn't really get any higher than around 80 degrees Celsius at 100% CPU usage. I thought that was pretty good thermal wise, considering the fact that we only have 2 fans with this case, and then obviously the CPU cooler and the 3 fan setup for our GPU. But we can monitor all of that right here, and you can see our fan. And we have a free up memory option, and then you can see some of our additional resources and hardware that we're able to monitor right here from the nice MSI Center software. Now I wanted to show you guys the motherboard BIOS settings. So currently we're in easy mode where we can just browse the CPU. You can see our memory right here, and you can see the frequency that we're at, 3200 megahertz. That is the speed it's advertised for. By default, you will have to change this in your motherboard settings to get to that speed. It's very simple. Next, you can see we have our storage. Here's our fan info. So I'm showing you guys what we're working with right there. Then we have a help section, so you can learn more about some of the different controls. And then we have our flash option. We don't want to do that right now, so let's exit out of that. We have a favorite section, and we have a hardware monitor right here. So you can really dive in and monitor the hardware and what you're working with depending on what you have connected. So pretty cool, right? We're just going to keep clicking through these really quickly for you guys, so you can get a feel for the different settings, different options. All right, and let's go back out. Now I'll show you guys, we have the advanced mode. Let's go up there. And then you can see we have our settings, system status, so a lot of different options there. We have the advanced section. And then you can see the different options here. We'll go back. Here's the boot. You can see the boot sequence option, and we can configure that. Security options. And obviously we can save and exit. Next, we have the OC. So here we go. If we want to do some overclocking, you can. This is where we changed our RAM speed. So make sure you enable this. Select the correct profile you want. And then you can select the frequency from this massive list, depending on the RAM that you got. Go all the way down so you can see the different options that we have there. It's pretty cool. If you want to dabble in this, that's where you're going to be able to do a lot of your overclocking. And then we got the M flash settings again. And then if we want to, we can always go back to easy mode as well. So very simple. The BIOS is actually pretty easy to navigate. You should be able to find the features that you want. It could be a little bit overwhelming as you start to dabble in PC building, but I think overall having the advanced and easy mode makes this great. So if you're just trying to do some simple changes like I did in this build, just changing the RAM speed, you'll be able to do that very easily without getting overwhelmed or lost in the process. But if you want to really geek out and nerd out and go to town with overclocking, you have the capabilities within the BIOS settings. And I want to point out for this build, our 5000 series processor worked right away, right out of the box without having to do any sort of BIOS updates, flashbacks, or anything along those lines. So overall, I'm very pleased with the performance of this build. Obviously, we could swap out the GPU if we wanted to increase the performance, or we could swap it out with a different GPU if we wanted to decrease the cost and obviously make some performance compromises. You could also look into overclocking the processor, adding additional cooling options as well to regulate those temperatures to get it to perform a little bit better. And you could swap in a couple extra sticks of RAM as well too. So there's tons of room for future upgrades. But at this price point, definitely some great entry-level performance. Well, that concludes our video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the product link will be in our video description below. Please go ahead, check it out, and do your shopping from there. Any purchase made through that link helps support our channel at no additional cost to you. So we're really grateful and thankful for all of your support. While you're at it, can you go ahead and hit that like button for us? And subscribe to our channel. We have new content coming out daily, and we don't want you to miss anything. Please go ahead and give us a follow online and make it a clean sweep. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, TikTok, Discord. You can message us on WeChat, check out our website, and join our free newsletter. Thank you guys so much for being here. Don't forget new content daily, and we can't wait to see you in our next video.